Hello, everybody. It is Megan here, the Healing Foods Coach. I hope you're doing well. I'm doing very well. Just wanted to share, first of all, some very quick announcements. First of all, my fall sessions have started with my one-to-one coaching offerings, and you can join now, save a bit of money if you purchase follow-up sessions in bundle weeks, whether that's 5 at a time or 10 at a time. Go check out the website, www.healingfoodscoach.com, and you'll find the details there for those looking to do coaching with me. Best way to reach me. Next thing I wanted to share with you guys is that Rose, AJ, and I are teaming up once again, the dynamic duo. We are teaming up once again later this month. We're going to be doing a live stream together. We're just working out the details of the time and dates between her schedule and mine. Keeping in mind she lives in the Pacific Northwest of the States, and so she's 8 hours behind. Once that's all confirmed, I will let you guys know far in advance so that you can hopefully join us. And this brings me into today's topic, which is the importance of mental health and well-being, and how an animal-based diet can actually help make it even better. It can help improve it if it's not in a great state. It can actually fully heal it. It can also just overall improve our mood, even if we maybe haven't been diagnosed with an actual condition or illness. And so Rose and I are going to be sharing just a really cool conversation, the two of us, and basically the idea, the theme will be our own personal struggles with our own mental health issues or illnesses, and how we have found health and improvement and healing through carnivore or animal-based diets. So that is going to be amazing. Now, the reason why I wanted to let you guys know that, for those of you who don't know, Global Mental Health Awareness Day is coming up on October the 10th. And so in the lead up to that, I wanted to make sure that people who maybe feel they don't have a voice or are not heard have either an opportunity to join us and comment during our live stream, but I will, of course, continue to keep comment about my own mental health challenges, where I've had failures, where I've had victories, and hopefully that will encourage you guys as well. I am not a psychologist. I am not a GP. I cannot diagnose anyone, but I've lived through it myself. Many of us have, especially if we've come to this space. It is often because we have had not only physical health issues, but we've often, in many cases, struggled with mental health issues, whether that was clinical depression, whether that was clinical and extreme anxiety, whether that was perhaps things such as being bipolar, having OCD, ODD. There's also dissociative personality disorder, and there's many other things in that wide spectrum of mental health conditions, including things like schizophrenia, whether it comes with paranoia or not. And those are very real issues. And I simply want to point out that whilst I obviously can't speak personally to each of these, because I've not dealt with each and every one of these, we are out there. And from what I hear from some of the great leaders in this space, the Dr. Chafees and the Bart Kays and the Dr. Camberries and the many, many others out in the carnivore space, some of them sharing their own personal journeys, many of us who are now following an animal-based or carnivore diet have had either incredible healing and improvement with our own mental health, or we've fully reversed it. And so I know it can be helpful. I want to start this video today by, of course, not only reinforcing the disclaimer, I am not a medical professional. I am not a GP. I am not a special consultant or a psychologist or psychiatrist at all. And I cannot diagnose you. But I have lived with anxiety and depression, which evolved into an eating disorder in my case, okay, for many, many years. And so I will gladly share with you what I've lived through, what I've experienced, what has helped me, in the hopes that it may help you. But I would also like to add in this important additional note, which is there are some mental health conditions that likely do actually need to be on medication for. Okay. And I'm not going to say which ones you do and which ones you don't. I'm not an expert, but I know there are some more serious and significant conditions like schizophrenia, perhaps like bipolar disorder, ADHD maybe, and perhaps OCD, or, anything along those lines where medication is prescribed. And I would imagine that it is probably necessary. In other words, if you are on medication for any kind of mental health condition, please do not take this video as your license to suddenly quit your medications. Okay. Medication can be extremely helpful. I firmly believe that, God is the one who created the humans who created these medications, and that these medications used in the right way and at the right time can be very beneficial and very helpful. I myself was on antidepressants for over 5 years. Okay. And I needed them at that time. They helped me at that time. Now I would add in that I was on antidepressants for 8 years, 5 of which was before I switched to an animal-based diet. And so with all the inflammation and the chronic up and down of my blood glucose and my insulin levels, and just all the other stuff that was happening in my body, my emotional roller coaster ride, the anxiety and the depression that came in massive waves, that medication helped kind of level me out. I still felt somewhat depressed, but my symptoms were a bit numb. Okay. But I needed them at the time because I was not eating a nutritious, satiating, healing, helpful animal-based diet. And so particularly if you are eating a standard diet or one that is low in animal fats and proteins, you probably will need to stay on the medication, perhaps indefinitely, because you have so many other things causing counterproductive reactions in your body. They will become, at that point, they may be necessary. I was carnivore for 3.5 years before I weaned myself off my medications. In other words, just because you become carnivore does not mean you suddenly quit your medications cold turkey. Please do not do that. Certain antipsychotics, certain antidepressants, certain anti-anxiety medications, if you quit taking them all at once, you can have a severe withdrawal reaction. And it is not only potentially negative for you emotionally, but it could become a life-threatening situation. Sometimes people have such significant withdrawals that they feel even more suicidal, or they become a threat to themselves or other people. So please hear me say that. Do not just up and quit your meds cold turkey. As I said, I stayed on all my medications for 3.5 years. And then I weaned myself off eventually. From my point of view, I had started healing physically from being on an animal-based carnivore diet. Within the first couple of weeks, I noticed my brain fog was starting to lift a bit. I had a bit more range of motion with my hands, with my fingers, with my arms, with my feet. I could hold my Kindle without the support pad. I had the ability to watch a program and remember what I watched. My short-term memory was slowly coming back. I was starting to lose the weight. And so I was feeling a bit more positive. But the one thing that did not clear up right away, in fact, for some time, was my deep-rooted anxiety. That is, of my 2 conditions that I was actually diagnosed with by a psychologist. They call it generalized anxiety and depression. And that is what it turns out had been feeding my bulimia and my poor body image and my lack of esteem, was this negative energy that was constantly coming from feeling down about myself and then feeling anxious because I didn't feel that I could measure up to what I should be. Something a lot of women feel. Men too, but definitely women. So even though the depression had kind of leveled down a bit, the anxiety never improved. And I remember the first 6 months, I was losing loads of weight, loads of water weight, loads of excess fat off my body. I was having better range of motion. I was finally starting to sleep a bit better. My hair was starting to look healthier. My thyroid was starting to function properly again. I reversed my fatty liver disease. My IBS was finally starting to improve. It wasn't completely gone yet because I was still drinking caffeinated coffee. So in spite of all these big wins and all these improvements, I was always left with this feeling of anxiety. Oh my gosh, but what if the weight comes back? What if I never get back and walk again? What if this is it? What if I can't get up and move around? What if I'm stuck in my chair still? What if I never completely healed? That I failed at carnivore, and why should I bother? Oh, I didn't today, my weight was stable, or it went up by a pound. That's it. It's the end of it. I'm getting it all back. This is failing. It's not working. That was my mindset. Okay. That was my mind. Now, at this point, luckily, I was starting to really reconnect spiritually and deeply with God, which I hadn't been able to do prior to carnivore because my brain fog was so bad. I couldn't. I would say quick little prayers, but then I would forget what I'd said a few minutes later. I was finally getting back into the scriptures the way I wanted to. I was finally getting into a deep, meaningful walk with God, and that was starting to help. But in the back of my mind, I always felt like, okay, well, I have to get up because I have to pray to God right now because now's my prayer time. But there's dishes to be done. And what about the errand I have to do today? And and I have to go into town for this. And I had all these other things constantly on my mind that I was anxious about that weren't going to go anywhere. I would still get to them if I gave myself a few minutes of peace and quiet, but my mind was constantly running. And one of the biggest things in my mind was, well, I'm on the medication, so I should stay on the medication because I have to be on the medication, because I must still be hurt, because I can't be healed, because I'm in my chair, because I hurt. Not realizing that my anxiety was ramping up and making my fibromyalgia pain even worse. The inflammation was starting to go from my brain, but I was so worried that I would get re-injured, that what if I stopped using my chair, but something went wrong. I was so concerned with all the things that could possibly go wrong or not happen that I was afraid to try new things. My husband suggested, hey, why don't you try getting into a pool? It takes the weight off your joints. You might feel really good. The movement might help you. And at the time, I was terrified. I'm like, well, no, because what happens if I get in the pool and the movement sort of twinges my muscles and I feel sore? Or what if I try to stand up more and it hurts? Then I've hurt myself again. And meanwhile, of course, now, thankfully, I'm in the middle of getting prescription swim goggles, and I'm going to be, in a week or two, I'm going to be heading to our local leisure center to go swim laps 3 days a week. I've not actually gone swimming. I've walked in shallow water. I've not gone swimming in years, and I'm excited. We're in the process of getting me an updated mountain bike. I haven't ridden a bike since I was about 15 or 16. And as much as I thought I wanted to do it, I was so afraid that what if I fell over? What if something happened and the tire blew? What if the brakes didn't work? What if it was too bumpy? What if it felt sore? All of these possible negative outcomes were so anxious, causing me to be afraid of the possibilities of what might happen. It kept me from being brave enough to enjoy the risk. And that was me having to get out of my own brain. So how did eating an animal-based diet help? Well, what I found over time, first of all, is the longer I stuck with it, as I was consistent, as my weight stayed stable, I lost those 100 pounds, they've never come back. I've been gaining a slight bit of weight here and there because I'm building muscle. When I finally realized last year that the pain of having to always be in a chair, depending on everyone else, not being able to get out and explore and walk and feel movement and that joy and that mobility, missing out on that was finally more painful to me than being stuck in the chair for the rest of my life. Now, again, I was not paralyzed. I did not have nerve damage. I did not lose the use of my legs. But I was so afraid that maybe I wasn't quite healed. Maybe the injury is still there. Maybe it'll hurt. Maybe it'll make things worse. Instead of taking the risk of thinking, wait a minute, I was told that my disc injury should have healed itself within 6 to 8 weeks. And any pain that I might be feeling is probably because I haven't moved in so long. And of course the muscles are stiff and sore. They're out of practice. But I'm not hurt. I have no injury. And in fact, once I was able to get past the anxiety of my own brain, that was a light bulb moment for me. I still have anxious moments from time to time. Ask my sons, ask my husband. It's true. I still have anxiety. We all have moments where we get worried, we get a bit anxious because something's going to happen and we can't control every moment of it. But what I'm realizing is that I've actually done everything I possibly can because I've eaten a nutritious and healing proper human diet. I'm eating an animal-based carnivore, if you want to call it that. I mean, it is, but whatever word you want to use, carnivore diet. And I am nourishing my body, my brain, my muscles, my ligaments, my tendons, my joints, my bones. All of it is being healthily nourished every day. So what does that mean? That means even if I was to fall off a bike and get a bit hurt, I would recover. Even if I was to trip and fall and bump myself, it would not be the end of the world. I'd be fine within an hour. Okay. And as I'm seeing myself progress, it's like, wait a second, I'm okay. And when I was able to start standing up against the wall with my shoulders back and my hips tucked under and proper posture, re-stretching out my spine, retraining my muscles and my body to hold myself with good posture. Yeah, I felt soreness. I felt soreness because my muscles had been, trapped in poor posture for almost a decade. I retrained them. I felt renewed energy. When I learned how to focus on this is where I want to get to. I'm not going to try to worry about all the things that could go wrong, might go wrong, or have gone wrong. This is my end goal, and I'm determined to get there. And so what I wanted to share with you guys in this message is that an animal-based diet is what allowed me to remove the chronic inflammation and the brain fog and the incorrect signaling between my brain and body, convincing me that I was still injured when I wasn't, convincing me that I felt pain. Yes, I was feeling pain, but it was based on the false information going between my brain and my body. When I got out the inflammation, when I got out all the incorrect signaling, by clearing out all the carbs and the sugars and the seed oils and the processed junk food, when all of that was gone, and my body finally started to be nourished and heal, the last step was trying to get out of my own head, which is a hard thing to do. Believe me, I get it. Okay. What I realized though was I wanted to feel the freedom I once had over 10 years ago. When I wasn't on antidepressants, I didn't need to take painkillers every day. I didn't need to take nerve blockers for fibromyalgia or anything else. I wanted the freedom of knowing truly what my body could feel like when it was moving and healthy, so that I could know better when it was actually sore or if I suffered a minor injury. And so I very, very slowly weaned myself off those medications. And what I came to realize was that once I was able to do that, I didn't actually need them anymore. So part of me was so convinced that I had to keep taking them because I'd always taken them. I was afraid to not take them. But for me at that point, because I'd had so much healing, I think it was finally accepting that the pain of staying on the medications if I didn't need them, those potential side effects long term were far worse than any pain I might feel coming off the medications or learning what it felt like to be medication free. And so I had to take those steps, and it was worth it. Now, as I've said, that does not mean I've never had anxious moments. I absolutely have. And sometimes I've responded calmly and trusted God, and I've prayed, or I've gone big, deep breath out, spoken to my husband and say, honey, this has got me really worried. What should we do? We depending on the problem, we discuss it together. Or I have freaked out. I'll give you an example. We were away on holiday in the spring. We spent a week together in New Orleans, the first week of April, and it was absolutely amazing. Loved it. Great city to go to. Food's fantastic. People are amazing. He had to fly out. We flew out the same day, but he headed to Oregon for work. And I was then going to fly and make my way back home to England. And so I was going to fly. The airline we were with did not fly out of New Orleans. So I had to fly into Dallas. And then I was going to connect to my flight back into Heathrow in London. Now, fine, right? I already had the return flight from Dallas, Fort Worth, British Airways, heading into London. That was set. Unfortunately, when my husband helped book my connecting flight from New Orleans to Dallas through Southwest, we didn't realize we were falling in. I was flying into Dallas Love, which is a different airport, regional airport, not their main airport. Imagine my shock and frustration when I landed in Dallas and it was clearly not the right airport for my connecting flight. And I now had to figure out, without any data, how in the world, and with a UK SIM card in my phone, so I couldn't call. I had to be on the airport Wi-Fi. I had to figure out how was I going to get myself from this airport to where I needed to be in 4 hours time. 5 hours time, because we had a big layover gap, thankfully. As it turned out, I was able to book myself an Uber. It was only a 20-minute ride from the one airport to the other. And of course, when I got to Dallas Fort Worth, there had been a huge delay with the flight I was supposed to be on. So I had plenty of time anyways. But in those first initial moments, I was freaking out. I was freaking out. I was riddled with anxiety. My gut was like rolling away. I felt like I could feel the IBS just flaring up, bloated and stressed and pain. And then I asked a really nice security person, hey, by the way, I have to get to this airport. Is it far? No, it's about 20 minutes. If you get yourself a taxi or an Uber, you should get there, no problem. Wow. Thank you. Booked the Uber, gave myself plenty of time to walk from where I was at the airport to the parking garage. Really nice young guy, super helpful, super friendly, nice ride all the way to the correct airport. And then clearly I made it back home. So it was not the end of the world. It felt like it, and my anxiety was through the roof. But in those moments in the past, I would have said, I need coffee and I need something with sugar because I'm stressed. I didn't do that. Got to the correct airport, found a place to get a great burger without the bun. Enjoyed a couple of burger patties with cheese and some water and well, at the time I was still drinking regular coffee and a coffee, and I felt amazing. And crazy enough, I found a spot to sit and wait in my gate area. And you know what? I had an hour to kill. I read something on my Kindle, talked with some other passengers, and it turned out to be a great interaction. Just to point out that I've been off my medications, and yes, I've been carnivore for 4 years, and overall, I don't feel as extremely anxious as I once did. I don't have those sort of hamster wheel crazy thoughts going through my brain all the time, but they can still happen. They happen to all of us. And I would say that if I was still eating the highly processed and inflammatory foods like I used to, I would have been an emotional basket case. I would have been crying on the phone, angry, frustrated, beyond stress, and it would have been a really, really bad few hours. It wasn't great, but it was so much better than it could have been. Just to share from my life that I still sometimes have moments of anxiety, and I'm sure I'll have other moments in my life where I have anxiety as well. But just to say that there's ways to manage it better. And we may always have those challenges, but they don't always have to define us or control us. And now I can't wait to get my mountain bike. Now I can't wait to get my prescription swim goggles. I can't wait to get in the pool and go swimming. I can't wait to try new things, travel new places, do new things independently without a chair, because I'm no longer controlled and trapped by the fear of anxiety. That is overall, that is my key mental health struggle, personally. I hope this has somehow been helpful and encouraging to you guys in some way. As I said at the beginning, yes, I am completely medication free, but I did it little by little by little. And if I may make a suggestion, obviously I trust you guys are all adults and you'll decide for yourselves, but if I might suggest, start with the diet first. Get as much of the inflammatory processed garbage and crap out of your diet. Eat one that is full of animal fats and proteins. Get the healing process starting. Do that first. See how you're feeling. And possibly you may be able to reduce or even come off your medications. If you can't right away, that's absolutely fine. It takes time. For me personally, I was trapped in my own anxiety. I could have probably, from a health perspective, like a physical health perspective, I probably could have been walking much sooner. But because of where I was at mentally, in spite of being on the carnivore diet, my anxiety was still quite significant and I was still trapped in my own mind. And that takes time to get through. And we've had years of being trapped in mental health, whether it's depression or anxiety or any of the other many conditions out there. We could be physically better, but if we're still trapped in our brains mentally, that's where we're going to be, regardless of whatever health improvements are happening around us. Okay. And if that's where you're at, I get it. I got you. I've been there. I've lived that. And I totally understand. And as I just shared, I was there briefly in April as well. But sometimes some medications, they may actually be necessary. They may be life-saving. But I believe firmly that if we follow and stick to an animal-based diet, we can hopefully not only reduce our medication, but depending on the medication and the person, perhaps even eliminate them as we see our mental health improve. With the knowledge and the understanding that if I ever needed to go back onto, not that the antidepressants ever helped with anxiety, because that's not what they were for the depression. But I know there are medications that are out there. And so for me, it was if I ever needed to go back onto medication, I could. And that actually helped me feel more free. Instead of worrying and panicking, what if something goes wrong? What if I can't do this? What if this happens? Okay, well, if I go without, and let's say in a few months' time, I feel like maybe I still need this, then I can go back. And that doesn't make you a failure, or it doesn't mean you failed at carnivore. It doesn't mean you've done anything wrong. Your brain chemicals are your brain chemicals, and we're all different. And maybe that's where you're at. And awesome. Amen to you. That's okay. Keep working on the physical health. And honestly, as you do that, I think you'll find that your mental health overall starts to improve. Get the inflammation out, eliminate it from our bodies, and especially our brains. We are a lot more calm and level. We are a lot less prone to massive roller coaster rides of emotion. For example, monthly cycles become a lot more manageable. Menopause becomes a lot more manageable. All the hormonal shifts that we go through as women, and even for men, the emotional shifts that they can go through with different mental health issues or hormone levels, that gets stable and that improves as well. So I hope this has been helpful. I do thank you guys so much for watching all the way to the end. I know it's a bit of a longer one, but I feel like it's a really important one today. So I thank you for that. And I will keep you posted and let you know once the date and the times are confirmed. But Rose, AJ, and I are going to be teaming up again, and we are going to be live streaming later this month. Super excited. The dynamic duo will be added again, and I hope you guys will join the live stream. Thank you so much for your support and your comments. It means everything to me. I love you guys. All the best. I'll be back with the next video. I'll be back tomorrow with more content. Bye for now, you guys.